We are truly honored to have Chief Justice Tani Cantil-Sakauye as our commencement speaker today. She brings decades of judicial experience to the High Court and enjoys a reputation as a fair-minded and collegial jurist of integrity, a jurist who is unafraid to make the difficult decisions that justice demands. Chief Justice Cantil-Sakauye is a truly extraordinary person whose life experiences, laser-like intelligence, and strength of character make her an outstanding choice to lead the California judiciary. She grew up in Sacramento, graduated from McClatchy High School, attended UC Davis as an undergraduate, and I think I forgot to mention, but she attended UC Davis School of Law. With legal experience as a district attorney, in the governor's office, as a municipal and superior court judge, and a California Court of Appeals justice, she was nominated last year to be Chief Justice and was overwhelmingly confirmed by the voters, becoming the first Asian American to lead the California judiciary and the first Filipino American to serve on the California Supreme Court. The Chief Justice lives in Sacramento with her devoted husband, retired Police Lieutenant Mark Sakauye, and their two delightful daughters, who keep her busy and grounded in the Sacramento community. Please join me in welcoming a proud King Hall alum, Chief Justice Tani Cantil-Sakauye.
Good afternoon. I cannot tell you what an honor and pleasure it is to be here with you, the class of 2011, and your family and loved ones. Many congratulations on your accomplishments, and we look forward to everything you will accomplish in the next 50 years of your career. Really. I also would like to extend a congratulations to Dean Johnson and the dedicated faculty of UC Davis School of Law, and for its amazing achievement of being one of the top 25 schools in the United States for law. I thought I'd share a few words with you today regarding your next 50 years and remind you that at this moment, you stand between two worlds. The first world, of course, is law school, mentioned here already today about your accomplishments, Puda Creek, res ipsa loquitur, property, struggles, being knocked down, standing back up, bicycling around with a property book on your back. Tremendous accomplishments for all of you. You also stand on the brink of another world, the legal profession. It's a profession currently 231,000 lawyers strong. It is a profession which will promise you relentless responsibility. It will require of you careful treatment and management of the fragile public mantle of trust, and it will wield incredible influence. And so as you stand between your two shifting worlds, remember at this time in your life to really embrace your accomplishments, appreciate your failures and the lessons learned, love those who have supported you and expressed their support for you and dragged you across the finish line. And I ask you throughout all of it to make sure that you hold dear your hopes and values over the next 50 years. And when you think about the next 50 years, you ask yourself, what does the future hold? And if you have mixed emotions, and I'm sure to that inquiry I'd receive many different responses, they would be along the lines of excitement, of course, thrilling, no doubt, anxiety, absolutely, uncertainty, spot on. I tell you this because I remember my place in your position 27 years ago. And I thought I knew where I was going 27 years ago. And it wasn't to the state Supreme Court. And if someone had said to me that one day I would be the 28th Chief Justice of the state of California, I would thank them for the compliment, scratch my head, wonder at their judgment, and wonder if my mother put them up to it. In the past 27 years, from there to now, astonishing, extraordinary events had to transpire. And those events, and I tell you this, were never in my reality or on my horizon 27 years ago. And I share this recollection with you because it's important to know that our destination is not really important, and we can't be certain of it. And in the best, most ordered lives and the best laid plans will be full of surprises and events that are beyond our control and beyond our dreams. And so if we can't, and really maybe we shouldn't, map out our careers and lives with milestones and exit ramps and rest stops and vistas, we can be sure that we can move in the right direction and that we can make sound decisions if we hold the compass that will lead us to the right decision. So today I wanted to share a few words with you about my personal compass in the last 27 years, a compass, mind you, that changes every day, that adds new points based on my life experiences and my life failures. And I also want to share with you a few broader societal law point compasses I think will guide you in the right direction in the next few years. My personal compass really starts with my family values, much like I'm sure your personal compass as you develop it will start. And I was raised in a working family of immigrants who came to California eager to work, proud to take advantage of the opportunities to become Americans and to earn their way. And so growing up with farm workers and relatives and a big family, I learned the values of hard work and honor and respect for community and giving back and appreciation for opportunity. And I took those values with me here to law school here at UC Davis. And it was then, as it is now, a remarkable place, a place where I met professors who were intellects and activists, who had ideals and passions, who took someone like me with these values and limited life experience and turned me into a passionate idealist. And my class then, much like yours, was back then one of the first classes with a majority of women. And you know, women get things done. There was also in my class what I call a minority of minorities. I knew every one of them. We all knew each other. And it was a class of cooperation and collaboration, a class that awakened my ideas to activism and ideals and ways to move forward as a group to achieve the common good. And I'm still friends with many of my classmates as we've walked our years together and we've taken out our compasses and compared our compass points. Our class then didn't really look much like California as the class here does, where 4 out of 10 graduates will be African American, Asian, or Latino. Another compass point for me was I came out of law school about the same time in the 80s when the market was also rather grim for professional employment. And so what I did instead was I fell back on what I was comfortable with while I awaited bar exams, the same things I had done in college and in high school. I went back to service jobs. So while I had my JD, while I was waiting for those bar exams and worrying if I had to take it again, I poured cups of coffee, I waited tables, I dealt blackjack, I took a lot of yak, and I poured a lot of cups of coffee. But in those months, I tell you, I learned a lot about myself and about other people, more than I could have learned with 10 more years of living. I learned that no job was beneath me, that everyone really wants to work, and I took away from those kinds of responsibilities the best that I could use on my journey in my compass as I move forward. And finally, when I did get a legal job as a prosecutor in the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office, I, the rookie DA, could actually pick juries pretty well. I could actually cross-examine pretty well. And I attribute that to my compass points. Those service jobs gave me an insight into people and to myself. I took the best that I could from those and applied them to a career that I knew nothing about. To this day, those skills I learned in service jobs continue to assist me in every decision I make at the California Supreme Court. Another compass point that I developed along my personal journey that I still use to this day is what I learned from my leaders, from my mentors in the law. I learned civility, ethics, and professionalism from tremendous people, by example, and sometimes in the breach. But the point was, as I moved through my career, I would reach into my pocket and pull out my personal compass to lead me in the right direction. And sometimes in those 27 years, there were storms, and all you could see in my compass was waves and froth and one hand sticking up out of that water holding the compass, trying to figure out the right way to go. I urge all of you to think about your personal compass and to develop it, because in your shifting worlds, as you go from law student to lawyer to partner to judge to justice, that compass will serve you well in making very difficult decisions in a very gray world. I'd like to share with you some larger law compass points that I think will move us into what I consider to be the new California. And of course, the first compass point in the broader legal world is, of course, the rule of law. I call that my true north. You know, as a justice, both on the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, people think we know everything. We don't. But we do know when we open briefs and we look at an incredibly complex and complicated matter, we know that there is a rule of law here that is going to guide us through to make the right decision. 230 years ago, John Adams, our second president, a lawyer, a founding father, saw a nation of laws. Thomas Paine saw that in America, government is king. Yes, in 1803, Marbury v. Madison, yes, I said it, I know, also first talked about the rule of law and the ability to void by judicial review executive and legislative acts. The rule of law is our font of collective wisdom, opportunity, and hope. And if you don't really understand that now, really, think about the cases you've read in law school, how all of it builds to a conclusion or to a holding, and always relying on historical references, citations, and the common law. We are transparent in our application of the rule of law. It serves us well. In my generation, I can pick up a paper and know that greenhouse gas emissions, stem cell research, and the rights of foreign national detainees at Guantanamo Bay will be resolved by the rule of law. For your emerging law profession and your legal issues, I guess you'll have to pick up an iPad and glance at the news headlines to determine what will be the emerging issues for you. And you will pull out your compass, you will pull out that rule of law, and it will guide you in the right direction. It will provide to you the application of how you proceed to tackle issues that have not even yet been created. And that's an exciting main true north compass point as you go forward. And it's important to keep it as true north if the words inscribed over the United States Supreme Court is to mean anything, which is equal justice under law. The second compass point I'd like to share with you is the need for diversity. John F. Kennedy coined the phrase that we are a nation of immigrants. California, as you know by the most recent census, shows that we are 37 million strong. Approximately half of us are women, and the two largest growing populations in California are Latinos and Asian Americans. We also know that California is rich with a history of immigrant triumph, immigrant labor, immigrant failure, and rule of law. The immigrants built California, this state in which we are so proud and which is a beacon of example across the United States. And diversity has to be reflected in government, but especially the judicial branch wherein the legal profession operates. And I say that's true because when you think about the judicial branch versus the executive branch or the legislative branch, the judicial branch is the least understood, the most mystifying. Because the legal branch, the judicial branch with the legal profession, we do our work through books, through research, in public places, but otherwise doors where people don't often tread, in courthouses. And we take years to reach our work. A lawyer will work years on a case. A case on appeal will come to conclusion years later. And so what does that report to the public? Maybe on the front page of the LA Times, 2 columns will be a summary report of this important case. And people, including the public, and oftentimes myself, will read that and say, what? Because we don't have the depth by just looking at those 2 columns. And so when a subset of California's population is making the rule of law that applies across the state in sometimes unpopular decisions, in sometimes for unpopular clients, in order for the public to continue to have trust in those decisions, we must reflect the population. The public must know that the decision makers, the lawyers and the judges, can identify with them because we are like them, and we think like them. One of the greatest strengths of the judicial branch is public trust. I mentioned it earlier. One of the greatest strengths of the legal profession is trust, and we can't afford to lose that, and diversity is a step in that direction. And I have to say, personally, in my 27 years when I started in the law, I had the benefit of people who looked for diversity, who had open arms for diversity, and who gave me, an American Filipina, a kind word, a word of advice to help me along the way and open doors. And if access to justice means anything, it means not only that the courthouses are available, it means not only that a lawyer can plead their case, it means also that the public can be a member of the profession and a member of the court, helping to make these decisions. And the judicial branch, for example, is working along those lines. Since last year, women judges make up 31% of the judiciary, which is approximately 1,700 to 2,000 judges. African Americans make up 5.4%, Latinos make up 8%, and Asian Americans make up 5.6%. We have a way to go, and the only way we get there is if the incoming, emerging professionals keep diversity on their compass. On the California Supreme Court, since I joined it in January, for the first time, we have a California Supreme Court female majority. I'm the second woman to fill the position of Chief Justice. So it's true in California, we have, to a certain extent, shattered the glass ceiling. There have been a few bumps and bruises and scratches, and that's only because, so that when you come along, you don't have those injuries as you ascend your profession. The third compass point I'd like to share with you is something that I understand many of you do already very well, and that UC Davis does exceptionally well. But I tell you this part because it's easy to become incredibly self-absorbed with your career as you move forward. And so the third compass point I'd like you to remember and to put into the compass of law is a dedication and service to pro bono services. Thank you. And I mention this because from the perspective of the courts in the last few years, we've seen an increase and an uptick in certain kinds of cases, in matters of foreclosure, in matters of landlord-tenant, in matters of mortgage fraud, consumer rights, class actions, domestic violence. And when you look at the kinds of cases that have seen an increased filing in the last 3 years, which seems to coincide with California's fiscal situation, we're looking at issues that strike close to heart and home. And when you overlay the uptick in these kinds of cases with the fact that over 6.7 million Californians qualify for legal aid, and 1 out of 5 of those 6.7 million are children, and 1/3 of that are working families, and 1/5 of those folks are families with limited English proficiency. And so for access to justice to mean something to the public, for who we ultimately serve and the reason we probably went to law school, it means that we need your services to continue, and every hour matters in public service. And in pro bono services, we have the Civil Gideon Project, we have self-help groups, we have legal services, we have self-help centers, we have online programs, but no matter, because it's not enough. They're understaffed and of limited scope. And so the need for pro bono services has never been greater, and there are many organizations out there that do heroic, Herculean efforts. They need you. And much like service work, working pro bono will bring you riches of the heart and give you a perspective on life and enrich your personal compass as you move forward in the many years ahead. The lawyers I talk to who do pro bono service, our partners in firms, are retired and come back, are the happiest, most fulfilled people I know. They do it for free, they do it because it matters, and they do it because they understand that the privilege of being a lawyer includes the obligation to ensure that the neediest have representation for those matters involving heart and home. So in closing, I truly urge you to develop your personal compass and to maintain it through all of your travels. I pull it out quite often because, as you know, the law is gray and the issues can take you away, and sometimes you need a grounding or you need a direction. Last July, when Governor Schwarzenegger nominated me to be the Chief Justice of the state of California, the history of my immigrant family changed. My children, my husband and I, our two children, they have a history. Their grandparents were farm workers on one side. Their grandparents on the other side were interned during World War II for 4 years. But then, somehow during their teen years, their mother was named to lead the largest court in the nation and the most influential state court in the nation. So history can change. The legal profession holds incredible opportunity. And to guide you through that opportunity and to prepare you for that opportunity, shine your compass. Keep it handy. I wish you all the best, and I welcome you to an exciting place.